Hey up guys, it's the Yorkshire Pudding. In 2010, one of the most controversial skills were added to RuneScape, and what followed was chaotic. Some people loved it, some people hated it, but the question is, should Dungeoneering ever come to Old School RuneScape? Today we'll discuss whether or not Dungeoneering will make a great addition to Old School RuneScape, or whether it would ruin the game we love forever. Dungeoneering was a skill that involved entering a dungeon in a place named Demonheim, working through different rooms using your different skills and combat abilities, gathering resources and finally taking down the boss once you've made it to the end of the dungeon. You'd then get a chunk of experience points in Dungeoneering, along with any experience you made in the other skills along the way. Each dungeon was randomised regardless of the floor you were on, so it was always different. However, you'd work your way through different floors. As a general rule, they got more difficult each time. The dungeons were also themed depending on your Dungeoneering level and floor you chose, with you starting out in the Frozen themed dungeon, then progressing through the Abandoned 1, Furnished, Abandoned 2, Occult and Warped themes respectively. This could be played solo or in groups of up to 5, solo being more convenient but groups of 5 offering better XP. The rewards from Dungeoneering were great, offering a mix of experience, quality of life upgrades and chaotic weaponry, which were some of the best weapons in the game at the time, though they took a very long time and a high Dungeoneering level to get, as you'd expect. But we now come to the first criticism. What I've just described sounds a lot more like a minigame than an actual skill. It's a very in-depth minigame, mind, but a minigame nonetheless. It seems less like a skill itself and more like a set of skills. The second issue is that it's instanced. Every other skill in the game can be trained by being in the open world, rather than being in an instanced dungeon separate from the rest of the world around you. Even construction since the release of Mahogany Homes can now be trained around RuneScape itself. This makes Dungeoneering feel quite isolated and again makes it feel more like a minigame rather than a skill. Another problem I have with Dungeoneering is that it goes up to level 120. This was the first skill ever to have its max level exceed level 99. For me and many others, this removes something very iconic in RuneScape, the significance of the level 99 being the max level you can achieve. Only RuneScape players will understand the importance of this. To this day, I still get my girlfriend asking why I don't level my skills to level 100, as if I've kept them at 99 on purpose. It's like the number 2.147 billion. You know what I'm referring to. Or 0.6 seconds. Or when your maths teacher asks you, what's 99 divided by 2? The answer is obviously 92. So Dungeoneering going up to level 120 rather than staying at 99 was a clear sign that RuneScape was changing from what it once was. The weapons gained, like the Chaotix, would also be way too overpowered for Old School RuneScape and may potentially devalue gear and weapons people already own and have spent hundreds of millions on already. Dungeoneering is also part of RuneScape 3, not Old School RuneScape, and after all, we play Old School RuneScape because we either fell out with RuneScape 3, or for the later comers, RuneScape 3 just never appealed to you in the same way as Old School RuneScape did. Now, I've discussed some reasons why Dungeoneering is bad and shouldn't be added to Old School RuneScape, but now I'm going to counter some of these arguments and then give you my honest final opinion. The fact that it feels more like a minigame rather than a skill to me does not really matter too much. Slayer is a lot of people's favourite skill, but the way you train this skill is different to every other skill in RuneScape. To train Slayer, you must first have received a Slayer task and then kill the specific monster type for that task. If you consider Hunter Rumours to be a hunter minigame, then isn't Slayer essentially like a minigame too? For me, one of the favourite parts of Dungeoneering is the fact that it does involve using all your other skills. This surely isn't a negative thing, giving all your other skills in game a use. The interconnectedness of RuneScape's content is what makes it great. To do a quest, you first need to do a load of other quests. But to do those quests, you need to get the skill and requirements, but to train a specific skill more efficiently, you need to get an item from completing a certain achievement diary. But first, you must get a couple of more levels in woodcutting, and the list goes on. The item isn't required, but you have the freedom to get it if you want. Skills are also not required for Dungeoneering, but they make the dungeon easier as you can unlock extra optional rooms, resulting in more experience and resources. They also give you access to more supplies to help you complete the dungeon itself. Some doors in Dungeoneering have vines covering it. Use woodcutting to open it. Some have a bundle of wood. Burn it down using fire making. Some have a magic ward you need to dispel. Use magic. For the next door you need 83 thieving to undo the lock, but you only have 81. But because you have a decent herb lore level, you can make a potion within the dungeon to boost your thieving level so that you can now unlock it. You're about to fight the final boss, but you need more food and prayer potions, so you use your farming skill to grow herbs and your herb lore skill to make the prayer potions, then your fishing skill to go fishing before using your cooking skill to cook them. But you decide to also make armour, using either mining and smithing for melee armour and weapons, hunting, crafting and fletching for ranged armour and weapons, and farming, crafting and rune crafting for magic armour, weapons and runes. You're finally ready to take down the boss using the combat skills of your choice. By doing this, you're also gaining experience in those skills. Some people may be against this, but I really don't see what the problem is. It's not exactly free XP because you have to actually train the skill in order to get that XP. You're putting your skills to good use. It's like any other hybrid training methods already in the game. For balancing purposes and preventing Old School from becoming easy escape, Jagex could tone down the experience gained from opening doors within the dungeon to make it feel a bit more like Old School. As for Dungeoneering being instanced with no ability to train it in the open world, I understand this may be an issue. Although other skills can be useful for Dungeoneering itself, the opposite problem is that Dungeoneering isn't as useful for the other skills. Perhaps Jagex could try and fix this by providing benefits outside of the instance dungeons. Rewards are an obvious one, and although I stated earlier that Chaotix would be too overpowered for Old School, there's no reason why they cannot tweak and rebalance the rewards to fit Old School better. I don't see this as an issue that they can't work around. Dungeoneering doesn't have to come to Old School in exactly the same format and state as it appeared in original RuneScape. They can definitely make tweaks. A few other ideas could be adding shortcuts around the world, like the agility ones, but this time requiring Dungeoneering to navigate. Maybe crawling through a collapsed tunnel, or using the underground cave network that connects certain cities or areas. Dungeoneering could also unlock a new Slayer dungeon. This could include unique monster types, where you can only get that task once you've reached a high enough Dungeoneering level. Or it may include the same monsters you find elsewhere, but it's in a more convenient location, where potentially there could be more monster spawns, or the dungeon could offer a unique effect, just like how the Karen catacombs typically have higher level monsters than you find elsewhere and give you one prayer point every time you bury a bone in there. Bosses and monsters around RuneScape could drop keys of different tiers. This could be a rare drop like the long and curved bones, or even clue scrolls. These keys correlate to different dungeons scattered around the open world. A bronze key may open a low level dungeon that you enter using your regular RuneScape gear and have to work through it to get to the final boss. You can choose to do this solo or even bring friends. Higher tier keys open higher tier dungeons and have greater rewards. These are various ways Dungeoneering could be intertwined with the open world, and I'm sure Jagex could come up with some other great ideas. As for the max level going to 120 instead of 99, just like the chaotic rewards, Jagex could rebalance it so it just goes to 99 instead. There's no reason it needs to be more. This video is about Dungeoneering coming to Old School as a concept, not Dungeoneering coming in the exact same form as when it landed in RuneScape 3. Now the final point I'd like to discuss is that some people criticise Dungeoneering because it's part of RuneScape 3 and RuneScape 3 is bad, therefore this must be by extension. But I honestly don't think that this was one of the main reasons people quit the game. Call me crazy, but I seem to feel like the main reason people quit was because of two major things: the Squeal of Fortune, now Treasure Hunter, and the associated cash shop, and the final nail on the coffin being the evolution of combat. These two made up the left right good night, and everyone quit and joined Old School. I remember 2010 when Dungeoneering was released being one of the most fun times I've had on RuneScape. I like the more visual appealing graphics, in all honesty. I like Dungeoneering and some of the other quality of life updates. It gets some stick for being easy escape, but when you remove the ability to buy XP lamps using the microtransactions, RuneScape 3 is still an extremely grindy game, especially in its 2010 format. Since it was before Old School RuneScape even came out, it was possibly the most grindy game in the world at that time. I think it's important to keep Old School RuneScape Old School. I do, but I also don't think it's productive to have a closed mind regarding anything that RuneScape 3 actually does decently well. I tried archaeology when I played RuneScape 3 earlier in the year, and that skill is genuinely quite fun. I also really enjoy the chill aspect of RuneSpan. People hate RuneSpan because it's AFK, easy, and it devalues runecrafting. In Old School RuneScape we've got Guardians of the Rift instead. This is less AFK than the RuneSpan and has worse XP. But you know which one I prefer to play? RuneSpan. And I'm gonna hold my hand up on this one. But I do also understand why they've added Guardians of the Rift instead. But back to Dungeoneering. To finish off the most important point in this video, and whether or not Dungeoneering should come to RuneScape or not, ultimately the most important factor is you guys, the community. The community needs to be on board if this is to make it to the game. It doesn't matter what I think about this skill coming if 85% of the player base doesn't want it to come. I'd be interested to see a Jagex poll on this very subject, asking players who played Dungeoneering back in the day along with players who only just started playing Old School when it was released and have never experienced Dungeoneering. I'm also interested in your guys' opinions, so please let me know in the comment section down below what you think to Dungeoneering and whether you think it should come. Ultimately, we're all part of the community and share the same game, so any negative opinions about the skill are also welcome. Old School RuneScape is an amazing game and has recently broken its all-time record in its player count, so I wouldn't want an update that could potentially change the trajectory it's heading in. Many players from World of Warcraft have recently been jumping ship to try our game for the first time, and if you want a video discussing why this may be, click on the video on the screen now. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing for more RuneScape related content, and until next time, I'll see you later.